So last time I showed you how to design a database. This part, what I'll show you is how to run SQL queries in PHP. Now I've gone ahead and added some test data to the videos table, and the test data is right here. So here is one way to run SQL queries in PHP. First though, what I'm going to do is create a new file. This page will eventually be used as the home page for the website, but in the meantime, I'm going to use it to show you how to run database calls in PHP. Now that I've made this file, I have also made a link to the file which I've just created on the index page right here. One way to run SQL queries is this. Now, when running a database call that returns records, the results are returned as an array. So first, what you need is an empty array. Before accessing a database though, what you first need is a couple things. First, you have to have the database user which you are using to access the database. For my setup, the database user is this. Next, you need the password of that database user. Then, you need the name of the database. Finally, what you need is the name of the server. Now, in most cases, it's going to be localhost. We're now ready to access the database. This part here creates the database connection. Now, we need the SQL query that we want to run. In this case, what I'm doing is selecting all records from the videos table. Next, I need to run the SQL query. And finally, I have to return the results of the SQL query to the blank array which I had created earlier. Note that some SQL queries don't actually return results. So if nothing is returned, then this bit here is actually not required. So now let's see if it works. First though, what I'm going to do is print to the screen the results of the SQL query. Now if I go to the website, take a look at this. This is all the records which are in the videos table. So that worked. Now, there is a problem with this method of running database calls. Someone could very easily insert malicious code. Now, to fix this security problem, you could just use a prepared statement. To use a prepared statement, you start with the usual database user, password, database name, and the server name. Now, let's say that what I wanted to do was run this query here. I am selecting all the videos where the title is equal to this and the uploader is equal to this. So I should expect this record here. So how to do it with a prepared statement? The process is a bit more complicated. First, you set the SQL query here. So, what is the table that is to be accessed? The videos table. So I'm going to set that here. And there are two columns that I'm using to filter the results. One here and one here, which I have defined up here. And those two columns are title and uploader. And the values which I'm searching for within those columns are here and here. Note that the values are represented by question marks. First, I am looking in the title column here, and I want to look for this title. So I'm going to pop that in here, identifying record 1, which corresponds to this question mark. And as you might expect, identifying record 2 corresponds to this question mark. And the second column that I'm looking into, that I'm checking for, is the uploader, and I want this uploader, so I'm going to pop that in here. Next, I have to set the data type of these two inputs. So, going back to the table, I can see that the title is a string varchar, and the uploader is also a string varchar. And if I go back to here, so first I have to specify the type of this question mark here, which corresponds to this value here, and that is a string, so I'm going to put in S. Next, I have to specify the type of this question mark here, which corresponds to this value here, which is also a string, so also in S. Note that this type here, the one which I've highlighted, lines up with this question mark and this value. The second S here, which I'm highlighting, lines up with this question mark and this value. Next, what I have to do is bind these types here to these values. So, I have stored the types inside of this variable here, which I've used on line 40 right here. Now, the binding happens in the order that the variables appear. So for example, the first one is record 1, the second one is record 2, which also corresponds with record 1 here and record 2 here, which means that the first S here will be bound to this here, and therefore this question mark, and the second S will be bound to record 2 and this question mark. So that is the binding step. Next we have this part here, and then finally we have this part here, which retrieves any records that the SQL query returns. Then we close the prepared statement. Now, I have saved the records that are returned in this array here. So what I'm going to do is print the contents of this array to the page. And if I go back to the browser and go to TestLink, would you look at that? I see a single row of records, and the video ID is 1A, and the title is title 1, and and that is exactly what I'm looking for here. And I should be seeing this record with the video ID of 1A, and video ID equals 1A. So it got the right record. So now that's how to do a prepared statement. Generally speaking, you should use a prepared statement when doing a database call that uses a user input. Also, both of the database access methods which I've shown you will only work with a MySQL database. Now, you'll probably be doing a lot of database calls, so it's a good idea to turn all of this stuff, which is quite tedious, into a function, or better yet, a class. And that's exactly what I'll be doing next, turning this into a class. So next part, what I'll be showing you is how to automate these database calls. Now, what I've shown you is a basic select statement. There's a lot more that you can do with SQL. For example, you could use an insert statement to add records. You can use an update statement to update records, a delete statement to delete records, or a join statement to get data from multiple tables. There's a lot that you can do with MySQL. Look up what you don't know, and you're not going to have any problems. So anyways, next part, what I'm going to show you is how to automate these database calls with a class. Oh, you're still here. I guess you made it right to the end. Well, I suppose you like the video, so great. I mean, as long as you're here and you like the video, why not press that like button and subscribe to my channel? That would be nice. Anyways, if you will excuse me now, I have to count the spiders on the ceiling. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Oh God, it's a big one.